Folks, welcome back to the Get Wired podcast. Really appreciate you being here. These episodes, the whole premise of the Get Wired podcast originally started when I was getting a lot of wire coming through the business. And we did this last week where I basically just sit around, cut some wire, and we talk about a topic on business, reselling or eBay or, all those different things. There's been some really great conversations been happening talking about business in general and the state of reselling and that it's not scalable and all these different things. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this. And look, to be frank, the person that made me think about making this episode, they did adjust their comment a little less personal and more focused on general conversation. And I really appreciate that. In the moment, there was a few points that were called out to me, which kind of made me a little bit frustrated. And I wanted to talk about that today, just talking about how we should not ever fall victim to someone else's limited belief. And this is purely focused of my own dream, my own goals and ambition, and obviously in this sense in relation to building a business, and this case on eBay. So predominantly, we started, and we're getting straight into this. So if you want to listen, if you want to list, if you want a photo, if you want to do some stuff while we do this, put it on the background. But my business predominantly originally started on the basis that I wanted to have an income while supporting me build a podcast, and then it's flourished and grown into some really beautiful things. And, I was selling media, books and DVDs, video games, and anything I could find, really. Not clothing, though. Not clothing. And a lot of you would have heard this story before, but, about 2.5 years ago, I realized it ain't going to cut it. We need to scale if I want to see the results. And yeah, I was making a lot more money before I was scaling, actually. But I would not have been able to continue to do that amount doing the same way I was operating. It just wasn't feasible. It wasn't possible. I couldn't source. I didn't have the connections that I have now. So I made the drastic change and got into clothing. And having done that, I've now fallen in love with the business and where I want to take the business. And I've shared that a few times. But the premise of what kind of struck up this conversation was I shared a goal that I have, and talking about how my business, which is predominantly on eBay at this point, is I want to make it a household name one day. And that can be taken in so many different ways, but someone came through and said that, no, that's not possible. It's not possible to do. And that really frustrates me when people, and the person isn't trying to bring me down. They're not trying to be rude. They're trying to be realistic and give me some sense of thought. And that's fair enough, right? But, with me talking about, how I have my other podcast, Feather Your Lifestyle, I have seen so many people not pursue what they want to do because people tell them that they cannot do it. And because they lack the confidence to be able to go out and do it, and that comes along and someone says, no, you can't, they don't do it. And they give up and they go do the life of someone else's satisfaction. And that frustrates me because we are all capable of greatness and we're all capable of doing things of our own dreams, ambitions, goals, and all that. And I want to encourage and inspire that. And that's why I want to have this conversation. So, and I actually talked about this in my recent newsletter as well. But, so the premise here is, have you ever shared a goal or a dream or something which fires you up or something which gets you excited, only to have someone come out and say, no, that's not possible? And I hear it way too much. I said it before. I hear it way too much. Too many people get kicked down or get knocked down. And it's a bit of a tall poppy syndrome thing here in Australia. When people start making progress towards their greater and bigger dreams, they get pulled down. Now, when someone says that to me, it motivates me and pushes me to work even harder to then go and say, hey, who are you to tell me that I can't do what I want to do, build my dream? And I'm already trying to prove it to myself. But now, because you're saying that I can't, you're on the list, buddy. I'm going to show you that this is possible. You wait and see. And that's what I want to chat about. But I want to put it in a perspective that I think there's a lot of context here. And yeah, we have to know when we're on a sinking ship versus knowing what's realistic and knowing, well, where are we in this whole battlefield of trying to, win ourselves in the landscape of building a dream and getting our ambitions successful. So when people say you can't, my opinion is that they really couldn't. They're just saying, well, they can't do this. They can't fathom this. They can't see how it's going to work. They don't see that it's worth their time. So therefore, if they can't, you can't, because clearly they could. They should be able to. Therefore, if they haven't been able to, no one else should be able to. Now, that is a projection in terms of assumption that, that they're limiting themselves. And I think a lot of people do limit themselves. I limit myself too. until I understand, hang on, I can do this. I never expected I'd be here in the business 5 years ago, but we're here in the business 5 years later. And I'm now more excited than ever because I know what we're capable of doing. And if I had followed the unsolicited advice of all the randoms on the internet over the last 5 years when I started this journey or doing this journey, then I would not here be today. I've had people say to my face, it's not possible, get a real job, don't have time for that, it's not worth the time, you're a sinking business, or all these different things. Yet we're still here, yet we're still showing up, yet we're still delivering, yet we're still growing, yet we're still scaling. The point is, I am achieving what I want to achieve. And just because I don't meet their ideas of success doesn't mean I'm not, right? And when you're building a dream, when you're building out that dream, that ambition, or whatever it is, or doing something different, remember, you're not here to fit into someone else's version of realistic. You're not here to fit into someone else's world of success, right? If all the great businesses had decided to not do what they were going to do because other people didn't think it was of value, like some people, imagine how different the world would be today. And when it's not possible in their mind and they haven't been able to achieve it, that helps me then realize, well, it just shows that I am operating at a different perspective, at a different level, not saying it's a better level, but I'm thinking in a different way. And, I said it in my video, I'm going to say it in my video on Monday, that, when it comes to going after whatever it is that we want, I think we get confused that just because one person doesn't like it doesn't mean a majority won't like it, or just because one person can't see it's possible, there's a lot of other people that can see it possible. And of course, that's opinion. We all value things differently. Just like with J.K. Rowling, she tried to get Harry Potter signed and it got rejected like 12 times, but eventually it's now one of the biggest, in terms of that branding in the world, right? And simply because she did not let other people tell her that this is not possible. So the truth is this: most limiting beliefs don't start from malice, like people being frustrated at you or not liking you. They start from this sense of fear. And these people are too scared to go get it themselves. They're too scared to, go out there and give it a go. So unfortunately, the quickest way to deflect or manage this is they attack, or they pull down, or they challenge, or they try and make someone else's life miserable because they were not good enough at actually achieving what they're seeing someone else achieve. Now, again, I'm not saying that why I came to this conversation, that's what the individual was doing. But I think as I talk as a whole, in a generalization, especially being on YouTube for more than 10 years and documenting not just, my reselling, but my running, and the amount of people that, put me down because I wasn't running the pace that they were running. I literally had someone that has run a 2 hour 30 marathon, and which is really fast. Like this is top level stuff. And they came to me, and I'd only just done my first marathon, and they said, mate, you're so pathetic. Maybe if you stop being so fat, you'll actually be able to run a proper marathon. Like that's what they said to me. And I'm like, so I did my first marathon in 4 hours and 44 minutes. Just because I wasn't at the speed of what they put as a baseline as good enough, they were putting my dreams down because I wanted to go run more marathons. And they just said it wasn't realistic because I'm not built for it. Man, people can be harsh. And I don't know if that was because they fear that other people are coming up and they're getting into their own world and they just don't like more people getting involved, saying they're a runner when we don't match their running ability. But maybe it's simply the fear of change, or the fear of failure, or the fear that maybe I'll actually pull it off, and then they'll realize maybe they're not as good as they thought they were in the first place. But that aside, and look, I'm trying to really have an honest conversation about all this because, this is stuff that I've had to deal with quite a lot. But there's probably 3 things that I've learned over the years when it comes to this kind of stuff. And obviously having conversations with friends and people that, who are in the same mindsets and understand what I'm trying to achieve can be really, really great. But you got to filter the feedback. Not every voice deserves a seat at your table. You got to listen to the data. You got to look at the data, and you can't fall victim to the doubt. Like, I do try to give everyone a fair, share in terms of sharing their thoughts and their opinions. And if I can take advantage and get some value and, really get some great ideas from people's thoughts and ideas and stuff, I'll take it. Like 100%. Like I built my business from watching 3 other people at the start because I was motivated, inspired, and, I was like, oh, they do it this way. I'm going to take a little bit of this and take a little bit of that. And that's how I was able to build very quickly. But I also had experience in project management, been managing multi-million-dollar budgets on a project management team. And I've got experience with that. So I know how to leverage and pull different levers and do different things. But I'm also open to learning because I don't have it all figured out, right? The other thing is you got to watch the evidence, right? So we got to look at our own progress. What have we achieved? How have we achieved it? Not looking at someone else's projection. And the other thing is people calling you out or trying to call you out. What's their evidence? Like, are they talking based on their own belief, based on what they see, based on what they know? Or have they got a portfolio that they can say, hey, this is what I've done, and I'd love to give you some tips and tricks on how to do it, right? I mean, they don't have to show anything. No one has to prove anything. But if you're going to come and say to others, no, you're doing this wrong, I can do it better, and there's nothing to show for it, it makes it very hard to kind of accept that, maybe what I'm doing is wrong, or maybe what you're saying is right. So every small win, every solved problem that you do, and every new skill that you have, it's proof that you're growing beyond what you are and what they understand. I am not the same person I was 5 years ago when I started this business. I've changed, I've developed, I've learned so many things, I've gained confidence, I've taken more risk, I've built better appetite for that kind of stuff. And it leads to my point number 3, which was then you let the results talk. Now, a lot of people base the success in business on numbers, vanity numbers, be it revenue, be it profit, be it who sold the most or whatever. But I think where people forget that business isn't about necessarily how much money people have. It's about the value and that market capitalization of value that they bring to a broader market, right? If you're impacting 1 million customers, sure, even if you only make $1 million profit and you make $1 per customer, right? You've impacted 1 million people, which means if all of a sudden you're able to say to those 1 million people that you've operated with and say, hey, look, I have a new product. I want you to try this because they love your brand, and you're able to then sell it and you make $2 profit from those items, and you don't have to win the customer over again, right? So there's a lower cost. All of a sudden, that value pays compounded multiplies of money, right? But that's if we're talking pure money. We're talking about value. What do we bring? What do we offer? Why do people want to be working with you? Why do people want to be buying from you? So it comes down to the results. You don't need to convince anyone. Your consistency will make arguments irrelevant, only because in the moment when they see an opportunity to say, hey, this isn't good enough, they will bring it down. But those people go very quiet when all of a sudden you hit a revenue number or you hit a profit number, which is better than theirs. And I noticed it because there was a period there where I had 4 months where I did like 7, 8, 6,000, and then I did $14,000 profit. Those people disappeared. Those people shut up. They didn't say anything. But as soon as I got back down to 2,800, 1,000, 3,000, because I was reinvesting all that money again, I was putting it into other things, taking on more risk, they'll come back out and say, oh yeah, see, I told you your business is crap. It cracks me up. So remember, the moment you start playing small to make others comfortable, you've already accepted their version of your potential, right? Don't fall to their level. Now, I'm talking to myself here. I'm 100% doing this episode for myself, but I think it's really important because there's so many other people building businesses, building lifestyles, creating things that they want, and they get knocked down. And this isn't necessarily about eBay or reselling. This is in general, right? I mean, I'm trying to have a holistic conversation here. You got to keep building. You got to keep betting on yourself. You're not crazy. You might be a little early, but you also got to do the work, right? You can't just say it's going to fix itself. You got to take ownership, responsibility, accountability of those things. If things aren't working the way they should be working or how you want them, you got to make a change. You can't just say, it'll be fine in a year's time. How's it going to be fine in a year's time, right? And I think a lot of people say to me that, it's easy for you to say, Chris, you're talking long-term and you're going to have this all fixed out in the long term. Well, I am playing long-term and I intend to have it fixed in the long term. I've got time to figure it out. I don't have to have the results perfect tomorrow. I don't have to have the results perfect in 6 months. I don't have to have the results perfect in a year's time. I would like to have the results really in a good, better position in, 6 months, 1 year's time. But I'm playing the long game because I know that the long game, if I'm able to keep doing and get the results that I've seen over this current period of time, if I'm able to compound that, multiply that, and keep that rolling forward, the math adds up that it will only be better, right? And that's really the bet I'm playing. Plus, I love doing it, right? Okay, rant's over. Really interesting episode. And again, I'm not here to say that I have it all figured out, and I'm really trying to make sure people understand that it's not that when people leave comments that I don't want to have those conversations. I do want to have those conversations, but I want people to understand that if you're going to put a conversation and say that you can't do this, or I don't believe this, or whatever, that's fine. That is 100% fine. Don't tell me then I can't do something just because I can't, because it doesn't make sense. I know the struggles. I know the challenges because I'm living them. I know the pressures that I have in the business. That's my responsibility. And look, if I don't hit profit, or if I don't get enough sales or whatever, why does it matter to anyone else? I think it makes people feel great when I fail, but there is a lot of people here rooting for me. There's a lot of you, and I'm really grateful, that are here supporting me, following the journey, motivated and inspired by what I'm doing. And it's not here to say, go do exactly what I'm doing, because it might not work out the same way. It might be better, but it might not either. But what I'm here to say is like, hey, go after what you want. Don't fall to other people's levels. You got a dream, you've got an ambition, take it, go build it and figure it out. You've got time, and when I say you've got time, it's like not delay figuring it out, meaning it's like, you don't have to have this all figured out today, right? Do something today that's going to get you closer to where you want to be, and then do a little bit more tomorrow, then do more on the next day. And, 5 years will pass and you'll have something beautiful, and you'll have new problems, and you got to go do more again and figure it out. That's it. That's it. I'm going to leave it there, folks. I hope this made sense. If you want to continue the conversation, jump down below. We'll be back here again next week with another episode. And I really enjoyed this, because this is me pouring my heart out, sharing my dreams, my goals, my ambitions, and sticking up for the little guy, right? Because I want to make sure that people know that they can go after what they want. You got to do the work. You got to be willing to do the work. And when you get yourself backed into a corner, you got to, either give up or fight back. And I choose to fight back. I choose to push forward and figure it out. But anyway, that's enough from me. Appreciate you all. Take it easy, and I'll see you when I'm looking at you